Hi witches! So I wanted to start off today's video with a super huge thank you to Davies who joined my Patreon this week. Thank you so much to you and all of the patrons who support me and make this channel and my lifestyle possible. You guys are awesome. I am constantly so grateful for you. And I will see you at our full moon ritual tonight. I'm so excited. I'll see you guys at 8. Now, for today, I wanted to continue our conversation of like living a witchy lifestyle and like kind of melding your spirituality and maybe some more mundane things in your life, because I think people are, it seems like people are really interested in that. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit more because like after I edited that video, I just like kept coming up with like actual concrete examples that for whatever reason, like my brain was just like not making those connections when I was filming. So I thought I would follow it up. I hope that's cool. And without further ado, let's just dive in. The number one action that I recommend when you are starting to meld your spiritual practice with maybe things around the home or your daily life is to make your home or whatever room that you are in the most a sacred space. So sacred spaces are generally places of peace, protection, joy. It is a place where you can connect with your spirituality. And I think that when I started really like taking control of my surroundings, which can be difficult, I totally understand. Again, like if you are like me and struggle with like depression and anxiety, that is a very overwhelming task. So by no means am I like, you must have a clean room in order to be a witch. Not what I'm saying, but taking some time to maybe like spruce up your environment or to kind of really dedicate space to your practice if that is something that's possible. For me, for a really long time, it was like a shelf on my bookshelf, and then it expanded into this whole room that you see from time to time in my TikToks. But it took me 12 years to get there. So you don't have to do that immediately. But even if it's just like a shelf where you're like, this is like my little crystals and here are some candles that I have. And like, here is this kind of, you know, witch adjacent book that I have, you know, whatever that might look like for you, even if it's just like the smallest thing. I think that first kind of like altar or first space that you set up for yourself is very magical and very important. So don't overthink it, obviously, but I think that taking the time to create that space for yourself is something that you deserve, but also can be a really great way just to like, you know, really jump into this whole witchcraft spirituality thing, especially if you've been on the fence about it. Just do it. It's awesome. It's super fun and you totally got this. If you're like me and enjoy the witchy vibe, I definitely have extended this to my home. So I want to encourage you to also maybe think about ways that you can make each room in your house a little bit more witchy. I do have some videos about like magic around the home if you guys want to look through those. I'll try to link some down below, like previous ones that I have done. I really place a lot of importance on cultivating a certain aesthetic, and while your aesthetic does not need to like match mine necessarily, cultivating one of your own, whether that is being surrounded by skulls or being surrounded by plants or both, like me, or like whatever that looks like for you, I think is like really important. And it is also something that I think instills a lot of confidence in me and also makes me feel more comfortable in my spaces in general. I would say if you are struggling to get started, start by creating a witchy little corner in your house and then see where that takes you. I also, along with this, do super recommend that all beginner witches learn about basic protection magic. Is not only beneficial to beginner practitioners, but it's also a relatively like safe place to start, I guess, if that is something that you're concerned about, which you shouldn't be. It's totally fine. You got this. Another thing to think about is how your hobbies align with your spirituality. So like, does your spirituality affect the reason that you're doing a hobby? So for me, for example, for a very long time, I did like Taekwondo, which was really fun, like as a kid. Oh my gosh, so fun. And then I also did fencing. And as I started working in my practice, I started like going to fencing class for the Morrigan to like train, or going to Taekwondo to train and get myself strong. So that's always been something that has very much like been part of my practice. Those sort of devotional acts, or offering up a hobby as a devotional act to a deity, if that is your path, or just simply engaging in this hobby because it relates somehow to your spirituality. So another example of this that at least I can think of in my life would be like painting or writing or some sort of like handcrafts. A lot of witches who employ not magic, I know, also like knit or sew or crochet, and you know, like knit their intention with every stitch, which I think is so cute. Other hobbies might include like cooking or baking, so you might be more into that kitchen witchcraft aspect of things. So there are a lot of different ways that hobbies in everyday life can be kind of made magical, even if it's just doing that action in devotion to a deity or to honor or maybe an ancestor or an entity or something like that. So yeah. Also, before I move on, another good hobby that I thought of in the moment that I did not write down, which is something that I seem to be doing a lot, is hiking. Like going out into nature and connecting back with the planet. Yeah, hiking might just be like, oh, you know, we're going for a hike, but it's also, I think, my primary way, at least, of getting back to nature and really like being out in the world, and I appreciate it immensely. So yeah. Next is something I kind of mentioned in the last one, but that is to create a relationship with herbs or plant allies by cooking. So a lot of our first introduction to using herbs is in the kitchen. We are consuming them, yeah. Or even if it's just like blending teas and stuff, that's generally where we see herbs before we get into the witchy side of things, and then we all have those big apothecary cupboards. Anyways, don't worry about it. By engaging with either kitchen magic or learning more about the herbs and the ingredients that you're putting into your food, I really think that's a great way to study herbalism for sure, but also to kind of start connecting with ancestor work. And this is like the primary way that I have started doing ancestor work. And I'm finally at a point in my practice where I am really starting to look into doing more ancestor work. I think I had to do some other unpacking of like emotional stuff before I could really look into it. But if you guys don't know, I am half Jewish and half Puerto Rican, so there is a lot of like research that I'm like, oh my gosh. But one of the ways that I am connecting back with my ancestry is through cooking meals that are specifically meals that are traditional in Puerto Rico, because I love Puerto Rican food. It's so good. But one of the first offerings that I am going to make to my ancestors in a couple weeks is to make Puerto Rican sweetbread, which was always my favorite when I was a kid. So something as simple as baking bread can really be this really beautiful devotional and spiritual act, especially if you are giving it as an offering. If you guys are like super duper new to the witchy world and are just like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start, no worries, you are totally welcome here. But one of my biggest recommendations is to start a journal if you don't already have one. Now, this could just be for like random anecdotes that you have throughout the day or observations that you have, like a field guide or something, like out if you are like going hiking or in your garden or just experiencing nature. But basically it can kind of be a proto book of shadows if you're not willing or ready to like put that stamp on it. I totally understand. It can be like an art journal. It could be full of like sketches and paintings and ideas. It can be written, drawn. It can be anything that you want it to be, which is one of those really beautiful things about witchcraft and kind of like these earth-based spiritualities or earth-based paths, is that it is so personal. So you can really make it your own. So if you haven't picked up a journal, go treat yourself. And like seriously, it can look like whatever you want it to look like. It could be digital, it could be spiral bound, anything. You cannot go wrong. It's whatever works best for you. For a really long time, actually, I ended up using a 3-ring binder so I could put things in and out. I really liked that I could take out loose leaf paper when I needed it for spell work and I could put it back in. But also I lost a lot of pages, so learn from my mistakes and keep everything together and numbered by page. Oh my gosh. And this kind of goes back to the hobbies thing again, but that is, I really recommend just getting out into nature as frequently as you can. So like hiking is awesome for sure, and that's kind of the first thing I think of. But if you're a witch who lives by the ocean, like swimming at the beach or spending time outside, you know, working in a garden or going to explore the desert, if that is more what your, I almost said habitat, I feel like that's not right, but what your environment is like. Now, if you live in a city or maybe a more urban area, this might be a little bit less accessible to you, but I hope you guys at least have some sort of park that is nearby. Going for a walk when the weather is nice is also a really great way to like connect. Even just like opening your windows, sitting out on your balcony, or even like on your front porch or something, if you're just not an outdoorsy person, totally understand. And like just pausing to enjoy either like the seasonal changes or a weather event like a thunderstorm or something. I just really feel connected back to my spirituality whenever I take a second to like pause. Looking to like strengthen your relationship with the land around you. This is one of the best ways to do it, is just experiencing it and giving yourself the space to do so. And also, this is a great thing to write about in your journal. So it could be about like the feelings you have or any thoughts you might have about where the season is, your favorite things about this season, your least favorite things about that season or that place. You could possibly, if this is something that you are interested in, press some flowers in your journal that you collect, but again, try to leave an offering. I use fresh water as an offering whenever I'm foraging, and take like the one flower that you might want to press into your book and go along your merry way. If you are more into the celestial side of things, you should definitely consider tracking the lunar cycle. This is something that I started doing like really heavily last year and have like continued to do so. As you guys saw, like on Monday we had a full moon video. So I really enjoy it. Actually, it helps me kind of like find rhythm in my life. For people who menstruate, you might already kind of do this, but it's not quite that. You might find that your cycle lines up with a certain phase of the moon, and that might help you connect a little bit further. It does not have to be complex, but you can note, and some calendars already do, like when the new moon and the full moon are, so that way you don't forget. Don't worry, I'm your Virgo friend, so I won't let you forget. Next, and I feel like this should go hand in hand with protection. Some people might disagree with me, but I really recommend that people start creating or start really adhering to a regular home cleansing routine. So this can be as simple as like having a good vibes playlist that you play when you clean your house, but I really love using frankincense incense to cleanse and protect. I also, another like pro tip, I guess, this is not my invention, this is something that I just do, but I like to keep a small piece of clear quartz above the door frames to like cleanse people's energy as they go in and out of the various doors in my house. So even if it's just as simple as that, just kind of like a set it and forget it, cleanse it once a month kind of thing, I really recommend that being a first step alongside protection magic as well. I also totally understand that that might be a little bit overwhelming, so I recommend giving yourself like 2 or 3 steps to this cleansing routine max. This could be like to open up all the windows, let some fresh air in, cast circle, and then walk the perimeter of your house with a stick of incense or a smoke cleansing bundle or smoke cleansing wand, whatever term you use for that. So it does not have to be super duper complex, but you can add these like layers of elements to create this really beautiful routine or ritual practice. So yeah. And the final piece of advice for you guys that I have as a practitioner with like 12 years of doing this craziness is to like really take time to give yourself the space to practice. And really, I want us to focus on that word practice. Not perfect, practice. Oftentimes I let other stuff get in the way, like other responsibilities or things that I feel like I have to do, and that can really interfere with the time that I feel I have to dedicate to witchcraft. So as part of like my own, and this is something I struggle with too, totally understand, I'm really trying to prioritize more of my spiritual practices because I feel like this whole year I've gotten into like a space where I can do that more and more and more, which is awesome. But I'm still trying to let that really be a central focus of my life, my spirituality and my practice now. Not just so I can show you guys what I'm working on, but it's legitimately for me and my personal development as well. So giving yourself the space to practice, not to be perfect every time. That space to explore, that space to make mistakes, learn from them, forgive yourself and move forward, which is easier said than done. Absolutely, I totally get it. But you deserve that space to be a beginner or not know something, and I think that's perfectly fine. So don't listen to people who tell you otherwise. All right, folks, I feel like I've ranted at you long enough. I will let you go for this beautiful Wednesday. I hope you guys do enjoy the full moon if you are celebrating. Again, patrons, I'll see you at 8 p.m. The link should be up by now, hopefully. And I will see you then. I'm so excited. As always, feel free to leave questions down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.